All right, guys, check this out. I'm going to show you why I think the 2024 Ford F-150 Raptor R is a great family vehicle. Let's get to this. So people ask me, how is a Ford Raptor for a daily driver? Well, I've had 6 of them now, and I have a family. I think they work great. Got a huge second row. So how do car seats fit? Rear facing, got some room, and I've got the seat in the easy exit mode right now. Tons of room. I like to run these little bit of protectors underneath the seat so the kids don't mess up the leather or anything. Lots of room in the front of the car seats. Now let's do a front facing. Tons of room front facing. Not an issue there. If you do run a car seat, you run the tether through the middle of the headrest. It goes through the loop, and then it connects to the loop behind the middle row. So that's how you do front facing. Rear facing, you can do the standard seat belt, or there's a tether on either side of the seat. Works great, nice and tight. Tons of room, lots of storage. I mean, basically, this is like a huge SUV in the back of the bed, especially if you put a tonneau on the back. You can put your luggage, you can put your strollers, you can put a bunch of crap. Kids' toys, sports stuff, easy there. So what about safety for driving a Raptor for your family? You got adaptive cruise control, actually intelligent adaptive cruise control, 360 cameras, pedestrian alert, 5-star crash safety rating. Another reason I like Raptor over regular F-150 for family safety. In a front end collision, what I like more about the Raptor versus a standard F-150, with the wide body, this pushes the wheels out like 4 inches further per side. So if you had a really hard front end collision, and this is, I don't have data to support this, but I'm just thinking about the logic and the physics of the suspension on this truck versus the regular F-150. In a front end collision, if you had the wheels and taking the impact, there's a higher likelihood that these wheels being further outboard than a regular F-150 are easily able to clear the occupant cab in a front end collision. So I kind of like that feature. LED headlights with dynamic bending. You don't get that on most of the trim levels in a standard F-150. Super strong steel front bumper for a front end collision. Then people ask, well, you can't use a Raptor as a regular truck. You can't tow with it. 7-pin, 4-pin, class 4 hitch. Got some good tow recovery points. Integrated brake controller, Pro Steer Assist, and it's got a tow mode. But people would then say, come on, a Raptor can't tow. I beg to differ. I've had 6 Raptors now. I haven't towed with this truck, still letting it break in, but I've towed with the last 5 snowmobile trailers, enclosed trailers, car haulers. Besides the squat, which you're going to get in the rear because they're a little squishier, but there's a fix for that. Airlift has that fixed, so you don't have to worry about the squat. The Raptor, to me, is the best towing half-ton truck I've ever owned. They got a lot of power. The truck being 8 inches wider than a regular F-150 lowers the center of gravity and gives it that stability that you won't get in another half-ton truck. Now, one of the things that would be a downside to a 37 package truck versus a 35 package truck is you do have a little bit more sidewall body roll towing with a 37 package truck versus a 35 package truck. And I've talked about this in other videos. I think a 35 package truck has a little bit better handling characteristics around corners than a 37 package truck, which makes sense with the taller sidewall. But I've towed thousands of miles, 8,000-pound travel trailers, 34-foot long, with my last 37 package truck, and it had no problem all across the state of Michigan. So when people say you can't tow with the Ford F-150 Raptor, I beg to differ. Are you going to tow a 9 to 14,000-pound trailer with one of these? No, you're not. But to be fair, I would tell you, I don't think you should do it with any half-ton truck. That's when you step into a bigger truck. So what's the downside to an F-150 Raptor versus an F-150 for day-to-day? Well, it's bigger. Getting this thing in and out of the garage, you know, you're used to just normally getting your mirrors or your widest point of your truck. Now you got a little bit wider fenders to get in and out of, especially if you have a single door like I've got in the garage. It's a little bit wider to get in, but it still fits. It just takes a little bit more effort. Oil changes. Oil changes in this is going to be more than a regular Raptor because the Raptor R's got like 12 quarts of oil, whereas the standard 3.5 EcoBoost does not have that level of oil. The standard Raptor takes no more cost in oil change or maintenance versus a standard F-150 with a 3.5 liter EcoBoost. But the Raptor R will be a little more expensive because you do have more oil in the engine, and it does require a premium synthetic oil. What about other maintenance? There's really no other more maintenance with a Raptor versus a standard F-150. And another cool thing with a Raptor versus a standard F-150, these shocks, The Fox Live shocks, or even just the standard generational Fox shocks before the live valve, they're rebuildable. You don't have rebuildable shocks on a regular F-150. You just have to discard them and put new shocks on them. So that's kind of cool. You can rebuild the suspension on these things. But these trucks, the Raptors specifically, are super beefed up versus a standard F-150. They have a different frame. It's taller, it's wider, and it's thicker. It's got a heavier duty rear, 9 3/4 inch rear axle with heavier duty splined rear axles. It's got heavier duty engine cooling, heavier duty transmission, transfer case, differentials, axles, drive shafts, CV joints. It's got a lot of upgrades you get versus a standard F-150. And people can say, hey, I can go put a lift kit on a regular F-150. You sure can. And it's a very capable truck. But you can't change the frame. You're probably not going to go spend the money to get the axles that are underneath a Raptor, because that would be pretty expensive. And stuff like this, believe it or not, day to day, even for not off-road, these recovery loops on the back bumper, I've used these for pulling people out of the ditch. It's just a lot easier to connect someone versus getting something that connects to the hitch. All right, I'm going to reset fuel economy. We're going to see what we get for a little 50-mile loop today with the family. Here's another great feature with the Raptor. So right now I've got the exhaust in Baja mode going down the highway. Want to quiet it down for the family? Boom. Put it in quiet mode. Makes it as quiet as a 2.7 EcoBoost in my opinion. I hear hardly any engine noise now in the interior. Now back just to show you the difference. Noticeable instantly. At about 70, you're right at almost 15 miles per gallon, like dead on. Okay, cruising down the highway, 72 miles an hour, pretty consistently 62 to 65 PSI, trans temp running about 183. But let's check out the rest of this stuff. So at 72 miles an hour, I'm making 0 boost, which is kind of cool. You don't have to be into the supercharger at this speed. You can see I'm at 0.5 negative boost, and now I'm at 0 PSI. So you're not getting into the supercharger at all, which is good for fuel economy. See the oil temps, 217, trans temps, 183, and charge air temp. Charge air temp, 82 degrees. 82 degrees from what I remember about my 21 Raptor is pretty standard. I'd see about a 30 to 40 degree delta versus the ambient, 44 degrees. So it's about 36 degrees warmer than the ambient air outside, which makes sense because once you compress the air, it gets a little hotter. But then you can see voltage also. Now, trans temp is interesting because I think the trans temp is actually about 15 degrees cooler than what I would normally see on my 21 Raptor or even my 23 F-350. So that's kind of interesting. I wonder if they put extra trans cooling on the Raptor R. Might make sense given the supercharged engine, more power. They gotta really put more cooling in there. And getting caught in a traffic jam for about 10 minutes. Okay, we've been in traffic jam nonstop for about, what do you think, 20, 30 minutes now? 20 minutes. I haven't seen the coolant go above 198. That's the highest I've seen the charge air temp get at 111 degrees. So it jumped about 31 degrees versus just a steady state going down the highway. If we go into these measurements now, still on traffic jam, oil temp is 206, trans temp 183, air charge temp 111. So that's good. I'll be curious to see what this would do in a traffic jam in a 95 degree day. So at about 60 miles an hour, I'd say you're gonna get about 18, 19 miles per gallon. People are asking about the rake from front to rear. It's got a little bit more in the rear. It sits up pretty good in the front. I have no plans to put a spacer or anything up front. 13.2 miles per gallon. So that says an hour and 14 minutes. We had about 20 to 25 minutes worth of a traffic jam and still got 13.2 for the loop of 51 mile drive. I don't think that's terrible. I would say my 21 Raptor would have probably got in the 15 to 16 mile per gallon range. So I don't think that's actually all that bad. All the running around this last like 60 miles or so, I got 12.2, which is not terrible, honestly. I don't think that the regular Raptor would have done that much better. But here's where it's going to get real fun. This says 277 miles and I get 10.0 for this tank. With that being said, guys, a ton of 0 to 60s where I was kind of getting on it. I was driving like an idiot. I'm actually surprised it did that good. So let's see what it gets hand calculated. Curious to see how much this fill-up's gonna cost. All right, do the 30-second method now, 27.8 gallons. All right, let's do the hand calculated. 277 miles divided by 27.8 gallons. Let's see what we get. Man, really close to hand calculated. 9.98 miles per gallon hand calculated. Now, is that terrible? It is, but considering how I drove it, I don't think that's bad at all, actually. I'm kind of surprised I did that well. So I'm actually really curious now, if I drive it like a normal human, what I'll get for fuel mileage. So to answer the question, do I think the Ford F-150 Raptor is a great daily driver for just day-to-day and family use? Absolutely. These things are safe, 5-star crash rating, super stout frame, axles, powertrain, cooling, everything. Great safety. You can take these things off-road. You can pull trailers under 8,000 pounds. I've done all that. Plus, they have great resale. I hope this video is helpful. Thanks for watching.